Hi, I'm Katie Crane, the Pilates professional. If you enjoy these videos, then I would love it if you would like, subscribe and share with your own community. The whole idea of these videos is to delve deeper into health, into movement, sometimes into Pilates, but even more often, sometimes we will even touch on mindset, meditations, and anything that's going to help you improve your own health. But even more importantly, I believe, is to help you help your community. So I've been a Pilates practitioner for over 15 years, and I've been in movement my entire working life, in swimming and fitness, and then I found Pilates out of desperation to heal my own body. Pilates was an absolute miracle for me, and I was able to heal my body from a chronic degenerative spinal condition that prevented me from living my life, to being completely in control of my own health. But also, Pilates really set me on a path to help me better understand my own health, but also better understand and better appreciate the body's ability to heal from anything. And I don't say that lightly. I'm not some love and light hippie. Everything that I do and the way that I work is always embedded with science, with what we know to be true about the body. But woven into that is a very deep, intuitive understanding that whatever we are experiencing in the body, whatever we are experiencing in our life, is inherently linked to the beliefs that we hold. And what I mean by that is, if you are sick, if you have an injury, if you are suffering with anything at all, there's no ways that that can change if you don't believe that you can make change. So when I was told in my mid-20s that I had a spinal condition that really had no hope of getting any better, of recovering, because I was told by spinal experts that it is what it is. The MRIs and the X-rays unequivocally showed that my spine was so degenerated that it looked like the spine of an 80-year-old, and I was in my mid-20s. So the proof was there in front of me. But I did not like what I was being told, and I simply did not believe what I was being told either. I was really fortunate when I was growing up. My parents have always been business people, and for a while they were paying me to read motivational books when I was a teenager. So I actually grew up reading books that developed a very strong belief system in my mind that I was capable of anything. And so when I was presented with the notion that my body was failing and that there was nothing that I could do about it, well, there was no reason for me to believe that, because I already had this inherent belief that I was capable of anything. I was really fortunate in that way, and I didn't realize at the time. It's taken many years, actually, of working with other people who suffer chronic conditions to realize that my thinking was actually quite unique, and that many people don't think the way that I do. But I didn't know any different, because you only know what you know. And so I thought that the way that I was thinking was absolutely normal. And while it may have been normal for me, it certainly is not common. And so what we see in the studio every single day, Somebody might come to us, maybe they bring their report. Sometimes they bring their MRI. I don't read MRIs, I don't read x-rays, but I'll read a report that somebody has, and they might bring that report, and in that report it tells me, and it tells them very clearly what they've got. So maybe they've got disc degeneration, maybe they've got a narrowing of the foramen, maybe they've got stenosis, all those sorts of things would be written on the report. Now, for a lay person or somebody who doesn't understand those words to read something like that, it can really seem like a life sentence. And it really can feel like there's no hope for them because A, those are big scary words that they don't understand, and B, it's being told to them by an authority that is an expert in the field or knows more than them. So who are they, this person who holds that report in front of us, who are they to think anything else but what they are seeing in the report and what they were being told? So most often than not, they are being shown in the report, and quite often in x-rays and MRIs, that say it's a spinal issue, that the spine in fact is degenerated and is compromised. Sometimes they are then told, maybe it's surgery, maybe it's some sort of other therapy that they're being told may assist them. But a lot of the time, those reports really don't give people much hope. But this is what I want us to consider as movement educators. What about the people out there who may have the same report if they were to go and get the MRI, the x-ray, all the things? What if there are people out there walking around who are not experiencing any pain, any symptoms, but if they were to go and get their spine pictured, then they would in fact present with exactly the same problems? Well, we would be naive to think that those people aren't out there because, in fact, we see in the studio all the time people who have, on paper, exactly the same pathology, but they are experiencing very different things. So when I was given the report that there was nothing that they could do, I was told this, there was nothing that modern medicine could do to reverse the degeneration in my spine. I was in my mid-20s. I was told that I had to give up all of the sport that I was living for, which gave me joy. And sometimes, of course, it hurt to do those things, but emotionally it gave me joy. So I'd push through the pain because I liked the feeling of what doing those things was giving me. I was told that I had to give all those things up. I was told that eventually the only treatment really was going to be spinal fusion. And I was just going to have to accept a life of disability. Those were the words that I was told. Well, those words didn't suit me, so I left that place and I vowed never to return and to find my own way to work around the diagnoses. Well, in fact, that's how I found Pilates. Today I'm not in any pain at all. Do I still have the same pathology? Well, honestly, I don't know, because for me, I was completely repelled by that system that wanted to take images of my supposedly broken body. And to me, it doesn't matter what condition my spine is in. What matters is whether or not I can live the life that I want to live. So now I'm double the age as what I was when I was given that prognosis and when I was in extreme pain, chronic pain for many, many years. Now I'm double the age and I don't have any of the symptoms. And as somebody who's lived with chronic pain, I don't care what I've got. I care that that I'm not experiencing it. And so what Pilates did for me was it really opened my eyes to the possibility of what the body is capable of, and B, the reality of common beliefs. And with that in mind, I have always felt that one of my jobs as a movement practitioner or a movement educator is to empower the person that I'm working with in a way that maybe they've never been empowered before. Because let's be realistic, a lot of people don't come to Pilates as a preventative. Well, not in my experience anyway. In my experience, most people knock on the door of the Pilates studio when they've tried everything else. They've spent sometimes years, many hours, and many visits to all sorts of other practitioners trying to solve their problem or trying to solve their puzzle, and they've found Pilates because they feel like they've got nothing else to lose and at the end of the road. I'm not sure why that is, but I mean, maybe that's a personal thing because that's how I found Pilates, like I'd tried everything else. I mean, Pilates wasn't really a thing in Australia when I found it. I found it in America, but definitely I had been everywhere else. I'd been doing regular massage, physiotherapy, chiropractic, swimming, a lot of exercise, pretty much all the things physically that I could think of, and all the things was allowing me to get to the next thing, as in, say I'd have a massage on a Monday, I'd see the chiropractor on a Thursday, and then that would get me through to the next Monday where I'd go have my massage again. So one thing just got me through to the next thing, but I very rarely felt any long-term relief. And that's what I see in the studio as well, is people have been trying everything. Not to say that those things aren't valuable, absolutely. I still get massage, I still go to the chiropractor, I still do all of the other activities. But Pilates just really opened my mind to the potential of my body because it educated me on how to move well, and it also gave me space to learn how to listen to my body, to recognize those whispers before the whispers became very loud shouts, which in hindsight I hadn't recognized those whispers. And Pilates really gave me the space to do that, partly because it was an experience that went for longer than, say, going to the physio or going to the chiropractor, but also because it slowed me down and it went back to foundational experiences like breath, awareness, finding flow in movement rather than moving through pain, and all of those types of things. In any case, the whole point of what I want to share with you is the importance that we play, or the role that we play as movement practitioners in creating that space for our own clients, in empowering people by allowing them to start to shift their belief system. So when somebody comes into the studio and they tell me that they're always in pain, let's say it's with their back, I'm always in pain. One of the first things I ask them is, what is it that you're doing that you feel like creates that pain? So, what types of things would set you off? Maybe they'll tell me that, or maybe they'll show it to me. And then I always ask, and what is it that makes you feel better? What types of movement do you enjoy? More often than not, most people know what makes them feel better. It may be something as simple as laying on the ground with their legs up on the couch, or laying in bed with a cushion underneath their legs. And then I start to take that possibly very shallow awareness, or or very broad awareness, and I start to teach them how movement can always feel good, and the importance of steering clear of movement that causes them discomfort. Because a lot of the time, what I find is people come to the studio and maybe they've been given appropriate exercises. They know what they need to be doing, but that discussion has never been had with them that if something doesn't feel good, or if something hurts, or if something is flaring you up, then you must not continue to do it. So for example, if somebody has given you bridges or spinal articulation, say bridges for back pain, for a back injury or back pain, but when you are in the process of doing that bridge and it's causing you discomfort, then that the way that you're doing the bridge, or potentially the bridge on its own, is not appropriate for your body right now. The whole point of what we're trying to teach in the studio, I believe, is good movement patterns. Good movement patterns are not painful. Most often, they actually create a sense of space, a sense of relief. They allow for the body to, even if it's just for one moment in time, the body is not in pain, just for a second, just for 5 seconds, just for a couple of minutes. After a while, they keep coming to the studio, and for the entire session, that body is not experiencing pain, and then miracles start to happen, and they walk away from the studio not only not being in pain, but experiencing that no pain for longer and longer periods until the pain no longer exists. Now, that doesn't happen overnight, but as a movement educator, if we can give our clients, our students, that experience just for a moment, then the brain starts to recognize that moment as a positive movement pattern. So no matter what it is that I'm doing in the studio with somebody who has chronic pain, every moment I'm trying to create a good movement pattern so that they can move further away from negative movement patterns which are causing them pain. And to me, that's really where Pilates sets itself apart from any other modality that I've ever experienced. I'm not saying that they're not out there, I'm sure that they are, but I've never experienced it, because once I found Pilates, I didn't need to look any further. But a lot of the time, part of that is that we don't know, A, how to hear the whispers, B, that we shouldn't be feeling pain, and C, that if we are feeling pain, then that's going to end up with more pain, right? So a big part of what we're trying to teach people is that good movement feels good. I believe, and I have experienced both myself and working with clients, that not only if we can recreate the experience so that the person has no pain, then we can also start to shift the belief pattern of the person. So quite often, because people don't find Pilates until they're completely helpless and hopeless, and they're at the end of a very long line of trying absolutely everything and maybe finding some relief but not recovering completely from whatever it is that they're experiencing, they often already have a very negative belief system that is rightfully so determined by the experience that they've had up until this moment in time. So first of all, if we can give them just a minute of relief and point that relief out to them, that's super important, is that, so part of what we're teaching is if you do this, does that hurt? Or if you do this, does that give you relief? And part of the process is that the student or the customer then needs to start to recognize that in their body, and that's part of the listening process, right? So then they start to trust that particular movement, they do more of that movement, they create more trust, they keep doing more of that movement that is taking away the pain or giving them a moment of no pain, creating more trust in their own body, which then is changing their belief system. And every time we do that, because we're creating that positive movement cycle, which then changes the belief system, in turn, the language that we use, the conversation that we have with those people in the studio, can then start to shift those beliefs even more. So then it's really, really important for us as movement practitioners and as people who want to empower our clients, empower our students, to really be very careful with the language that we're using. So if somebody says, I've blown out my back, I've blown out my disc, I've got degeneration or anything like that, we can in fact change the language to something a little bit kinder. Maybe, well, that's just your special side. That's just the side that is speaking to you. That's just the side that we're going to work on a little bit more until it can get a little bit stronger like the other side, rather than agreeing with them, oh yeah, that disc bulge or that degeneration. They're all very negative connotations, which it's not, the client doesn't understand any of that really. They're not a physiotherapist, they're not a doctor. They're just using words that have been used to them, and those words sound very negative. So if we change the language that we use in the studio, then we really can start to shift people's perceptions without them even realizing it. And then when people leave the studio, it's super important that we leave them with that empowerment. So things like, for the next week, I always encourage my clients to start to listen to their body. And just remember that it's okay if something hurts. That's just your body speaking to you. So rather than hate on that experience, and rather than get upset about that or feel like you're going backwards, be grateful that your body is speaking to you. Listen to your body and start to figure out what types of things can you do to mitigate that pain or to reduce that level of pain just in your everyday life. Sometimes it may just be about shifting your body weight from one side of your leg to the other. Sometimes it may be something as simple as taking a deep breath, and as you breathe out, allow for things, that tightness, that pain that you're feeling. Can you use your breath to allow for that to relax a little bit? So sometimes the things that we use in the studio really do apply in everyday life, and it's really important that we realize that things that seem so obvious to us are not obvious whatsoever to the people that we're working with. And we can in fact help them and empower them by giving them little ideas, but ultimately by listening to them tell us how they feel, by listening to the language that they are using, and by observing the way that they're walking, observing their facial expressions when we give them movement, and really starting to use our power of observation and listening to be able to cater to that individual's needs, rather than always telling people what they need to do. I certainly felt when I started Pilates that it was the first time that I was being heard. And having somebody witness my pain, having somebody listen to my pain and really empathize with my experience and what it was I was feeling without even giving me answers, without even problem solving for me. That was a big part of the healing process. So could we in the studio be our client's witness to their experience and let them speak? take in what it is that they're telling us, and actually learn from every single person that comes in the studio, rather than always having to tell everybody what to do. These are just ideas that I want to bring to you today, both as a movement educator, but also as somebody who has lived with chronic pain. And like I said, I'm now double the age and I'm no longer in the chronic pain. In fact, I'm in perimenopause at the moment, and I feel so strong and so healthy and so great about my body, because I've actively spent all of these years listening to other people, understanding their experience, so that then I can better understand my own experience. Thanks so much for joining me today. I'm Katie Crane, the Pilates professional. If you like this video, I would love it if you like, subscribe, and share it with your community, so that we can all build a community of empowered movement practitioners. I will see you next time. Thanks for joining me.